Hey everybody, it's Ray with Nimrod Collective. Today I wanted to go over how to install our new, as of late May, early June 2025, our Offset Q-Sert light mount. This has an M-lock slot built in on top for you to be able to run a short section of Picatinny rail with a Picatinny light switch on it, and then it offsets the light mount to hang off the side of the handguard, similar kind of to how our light bars would mount without being pushed so far forward. This is really designed for the top of the handguard on the minifix so that it could be installed. You can run a switch on top with the light offset to either the right or the left side. But honestly, it could be used for different mounting positions or setups if you want. You could run it angled on the side and have the light kind of offset towards the top. You could mount it on the side and have the light offset towards the bottom, and it does give you that little bit of added versatility, being able to run a Picatinny rail section on top of it for switches or other single slot M-lock accessories. So let's go ahead and work through getting that installed, and I'll kind of go over some of the features of it when I got you looking top down over the install. Okay, so over at the bench, kind of got everything laid out for you. Everything up here is kind of what's gonna come in the package. You'll have a sticker, your card with the torque values. You'll get 2 of the Qsert mount bolts, which are what actually fasten the mount to the rail. And then you'll get 2 different lengths of light body bolts. All that'll be kind of bundled up in this black packaging. As far as the 2 different light body mount bolt sizes go, I have found that most light bodies work with these longer light body mount bolts, and that's what I prefer because the added thread engagement is going to be a little bit stronger. But if you have a light body that when you're installing these, you kind of get some tightness and tightening before the light body itself is tightened to the mount, I would back those out and use the shorter bolts. It's very few that I've found that really need those, but it's just going to depend as soon as you go to install how much thread length your light body has. So that's the only difference there. Like I said, try and use the long ones. If you run into some resistance or issues, move to the short ones. You'll also get your mount, and this is new for late May, early June 2025. This is our offset mount. It is designed to go on the top of your rail like this. It's a little tight, but it goes on the top of the rail. Get its seat down there, and it offsets your light to the right side or the left side. You know, this can be flipped and reversed and installed the other way as well. But yeah, designed to drop on either side, and then it has a single slot length M-lock slot on the top, and that is to run really anything that'll fit in a single M-lock slot. But specifically, I had designed it for these small 3-slot Magpul, style Picatinny rails, because you can install them on there, and then you can install a remote switch on top of that if you have a Picatinny remote switch. This nice flat surface is also good if you have the stock Surefire type switches that you can Velcro to the top. This provides a nice surface for that. So that's what that mount was designed for. Like I said, I designed it for the top of the minifix to be able to do that. It'll fit in any of the long Qsert slots, so if you need to offset your light for any reason, it'll fit there. If you want to run it here and offset it to the underside of the handguard, you can do that on either side. Since these positions are swapped on the OTPs and the boombox, if you want to run it, up here and offset the light to the bottom, that's an option. It's pretty versatile. As long as you can utilize one of these long Qsert slots, you can get this thing in there and position the way that you need. And then, as an example, I'll just show you what one of them looks like with the Picatinny rail installed and a mod button light. So typically I'll just run this on top, and then I'll feed the wire around and into the light, and then it gives you a remote switch option right on top of the rail. Cuts down a little bit on height, I mean, obviously you still have the mount in there. It's not going to be as low profile as either a full top rail or the Qsert Picatinny mounts that go on here, but this kind of gives you the option to mount the light and the switch on the same device. So just as an example, that's kind of how I got this one set up. Personally, that's what I typically run on here. I drop it on the right side of the handguard and run the light over here, and then it's pretty comfortable to just be able to reach on top and hit that with your thumb when it's on top of the rail. So as far as install goes, it's pretty straightforward, but I will get this thing let me see if I can get it set up to show you the top of the rail in a better shot, and then we'll get this thing installed. Not the easiest thing to set up to be in this position, but hopefully it stays solid while we go through this. The underside of this mount is just going to have two little locating tabs. Kind of just finds the edges of these and keeps everything centered when you're going to install. Since this uses 2 bolts, they don't really provide a lot of like recoil support or anything like that. It's really just for install and keeping everything centered. So I typically like to get the lights installed on these first and then install these on the handguard. So let's go through that. You'll just take whatever your light of choice is. This is an Echo Arms, but it's Surefire style. Anything that uses this scout light mounting pattern where it's got the 2 bolt holes. Typically they have these little ridges that fit down in the light mount channel. As long as your light has that mounting style, it should fit. So you kind of just, this has the channel, come on, focus. This has the channel in it, and so these little ridges will kind of fit down in there. And then you can just get these bolt holes lined up. So we'll get that set aside for a second. Since I know this takes these longer light body bolts, I'm going to go ahead and use those. They take a T15 Torx bit. And so typically I will just get that started on the bit, and then I will go through the mount. So you'll see it sticking out there, and then you can kind of get it started in the light body. Just get that hand tight, make sure the other one's lined up, grab the other bolt, and then you just repeat that step. Get it started by hand. And then just kind of get both of these hand tight. Yeah, a little bit snug. And then, like I said, included is your torque value card. So for these T15s, if you're doing it dry with no Loctite or anything, it's 20 inch-pounds. The card has instructions at the bottom for lower torque values if you are going to use any type of Loctite or anything. I don't typically find it necessary. I haven't really had any of these come loose dry, but if you want the added assurance of Loctite, I would recommend blue so you can get it off in the future. And if you do use Loctite, I would definitely use the lower torque values at the bottom of that card. But since this one's dry, I'll get my torque driver set to the 20 inch-pounds for those T15 screws. It's not a lot of torque, so typically you can just hold this in your hand. And I like to give it a couple of snaps on each screw to make sure everything's tight. And then you're good to go with the light body mounted to the mount. And then after that, you can get it installed in the handguard, or if you want to run something on this M-LOK slot, it should install fine. If you put this in the handguard and put the M-LOK in, it does have this channel so that it captures the M-LOK nuts from the back like everything else. It shouldn't be an issue, but I like to install it before I get everything installed onto the handguard. Just that way I can make sure these are captured in there the way they need to be. But it's up to you what you want to do, or if you're not going to run anything on top, you can just go ahead and move forward to getting this installed on the handguard. like I said, it's got those two little locating tabs, and you're kind of just gonna get them placed in. Let me see if I can get this rotated a little bit actually. It's gonna be hard to see, but those locating tabs are just gonna kind of be pushed down into the slot on the handguard. Give it a little bit of a press. And then those holes will be lined up because of the locating tabs. So you can take your Qsert mount bolt, one of them, they are a T20 Torx. And just like with the light body, I like to get these things started by hand. So just give those a good hand tightening, you know, just a little bit. And then for the T20 Torx, they are a 1032 fastener, and so you're going to want to set your torque driver to the 32 inch-pounds if you're doing it dry. If you're doing it wet, it's got the other torque value at the bottom of that card. And then just like with the light body bolts, give it a good torque. I like to do it a couple of times on each fastener to make sure it's tight. And there you go. Now you're rigidly mounted to your handguard. So at this point, if you want to, you can do it down the road, you can do it now. You can install your M-lock accessory. The Magpul 3-slot specifically fit really well in this. It is the same spec as any other M-lock for a single slot, so if you have something else that you want to run on there, you can. I don't know how much else out there would be utilized in a single slot for a mount like this. I guess if you're running it underneath and you wanted to run a vertical grip that fits in a single slot or something like that, it might work. But like I said, I typically just run a rail on top like this so that I can run my pressure switch on top. Or if you're not going to run anything, you're good to go now. So that's how this is installed. You know, removal is just the reverse. This one's a little bit easier than the light bar mounts because there's no finger that hinges under the handguard and stuff like that. You just pop these two bolts out, pop the mount off, and you're good to go. Since I like to run this at the front of the handguard, I have tested fitment on here. This is a little bit lower profile overall than the light bars that I have, so it's a little bit less clearance. This will barely fit with a 2-inch suppressor. I think most people on this are going to be running 1.75 or below on these setups. If you have something that happens to be bigger than a Q can, I would test fit that first before you start going crazy trying to take this out on a hunt or anything like that. Make sure everything fits. But I have been able to verify that 1.75 inches in diameter, like the Q suppressors and down, all fits in here very nicely if you're running it at the front of the handguard like this, where fitment may be a concern. Or, you know, if you have a longer fix or a longer handguard that you're going to run this on and you're not running it at the front of the handguard, this keeps everything a little bit low profile, a little bit more low profile to the rail, so you can run it as long as you can mount it in one of these long Qsert mount holes. You should be able to mount that anywhere on the handguard that you want. But anyway, if you have any questions for me, or you're interested in buying one of these mounts if you don't have one already, you can go to nimrodcollective.com. I've got them listed there. That QR code should take you there, or you can just go to nimrodcollective.com. Email's on the website, it's info@nimrodcollective.com, so if you got any questions on the mounts or anything else I can help you with, I'd be happy to assist if I can. You can just reach out to me at that email, and I will respond as soon as I can. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you got any more questions, just hit me up there. Thank you.